Remember that classic California dream? You know, the one with sunshine, beaches, and a charming little bungalow you could actually afford? Yeah, well, for many millennials, that dream feels more like a fever dream. Owning a home in the Golden State has become a distant fantasy, a cruel joke whispered by real estate agents with dollar signs in their eyes. The truth is, California's housing crisis has reached a boiling point, leaving an entire generation scrambling for scraps in an overpriced and ruthlessly competitive market. Now you might be thinking, come on, John, isn't California expensive for everyone? And you wouldn't be entirely wrong, but here's the kicker: millennials are getting hit particularly hard. We're talking about a generation saddled with student loan debt, stagnant wages, and a job market that seems to favor avocado toast over actual living wages. Add to that the perfect storm of a global pandemic, Wall Street greed, and a housing shortage of epic proportions, and you've got yourself a recipe for disaster. So let's rewind to 2020, shall we? The world hit the pause button thanks to COVID-19. The pandemic had a wild impact on the housing market. People fled big cities for greener pastures. This led to a surge in demand for suburban homes. Bidding wars became the norm. Construction delays worsened the housing shortage. Remote work changed the game, creating out-of-state buyers. Millennials were left with shattered homeownership dreams. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather the hedge fund manager in the McMansion. While regular folks were struggling to scrape together a down payment, Wall Street swooped in like a vulture in a Brooks Brothers suit, buying up homes and entire neighborhoods with cash offers and zero remorse. See, these big investors realized that the housing market was a gold mine, and they weren't afraid to exploit it. They started buying up single-family homes at an alarming rate, turning them into rentals and driving up prices for everyone else. In fact, a recent report found that institutional investors now own a record share of homes in the United States, and California is one of their favorite playgrounds. It's like a game of Monopoly, except the rules are rigged, and you're playing against a bunch of hedge funds with unlimited funds. And while these investors are raking in the profits, millennials are left wondering if they'll ever be able to afford a place to call their own. Section 4. The wage gap widens. Living costs soar, salaries stagnate. Here's a fun fact that's not actually fun at all. The cost of living in California has been skyrocketing for years, while wages have remained relatively stagnant. We're talking about a state where the median home price is now well over $800,000, and the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in San Francisco will set you back a cool $3,000 per month. Meanwhile, the average millennial salary is nowhere near enough to keep up with these astronomical costs. It's like trying to outrun a cheetah on a unicycle. You're just not going to win. So while older generations might reminisce about the days when a gallon of gas cost a nickel and you could buy a house with a high school diploma, millennials are left wondering how they're supposed to afford rent, let alone groceries, student loan payments, and the occasional avocado toast. Because let's face it, we deserve a treat now and then. Section 5. Generation rent. Millennials struggle to keep a roof overhead. Okay, so we've established that buying a home in California is about as likely as finding a unicorn riding a surfboard on the 405 freeway. But what about renting? Surely that's a viable option, right? Well, not so fast. Remember those Wall Street investors we talked about earlier? They're not just buying up single-family homes, they're also snatching up apartment buildings and jacking up rents. And with a limited supply of affordable housing options, millennials are often left with little choice but to shell out an exorbitant amount of their income on rent, leaving them with little left over for savings, investments, or even just a decent social life. This housing crisis is forcing millennials to delay major life milestones like getting married, having children, or even just moving out of their parents' basements. It's a generation stuck in a perpetual state of adulting light, constantly worried about making ends meet and wondering if they'll ever achieve the same level of financial stability as their parents. Solutions for a more affordable future. There are glimmers of hope on the horizon. Increasing affordable housing supply and streamlining permits can help. Financial assistance for first-time home buyers is crucial. It requires effort from policymakers, developers, and citizens. We need to take action now to keep the California dream alive.